Always refer to your quick start manual for the inkjet. Alright, right now we're going to be talking about the bottom plate and the 4 little screws on the bottom of the plate, and maybe cleaning and which dot is the center dot of your matrix. There's 7 dots that you can see under here. The 3rd dot from each side are for printing. The center dot is the 4th one in from either side. So if you count each dot, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's your center dot. You would have 3 on each side. Center dot is your print dot, your center dot. Now there's 4 screws. We can pull out the 4 screws. Now we put down a piece of white paper here for a little more reflectivity to help show the video with the help of this mirror. These 4 screws, now if you're working on this on a cutting table, please put something down to capture the 4 screws. When I pull these 4 screws out, now this is a fairly new system, we won't have the gushing of ink coming out. You always want to make sure your air pressure is off, but when you start pulling out these screws, have something down there to capture them. So I will start pulling these screws out. They're very small Phillips head metric screws, and hopefully there's more screws in your kit in case you do lose one. You can always set something down on your cutting table to capture all of this. And there will be a little ink. Now this is probably cleaning fluid from the last time it was flushed out. Okay, and what we have here is the printing plate. And I've got ink all over my hands. The smart thing to do is put on some chemical resistant gloves, which I should have had. I will put on now. Luckily it's just cleaning fluid. Always gear up with the proper equipment, right? Okay, here we go. Here's our print head. This is the front side. You can see the bevels on the plate. And the back side of the plate, your 7 dots. So if you'd want to clean this, you could take a small amount of cleaning fluid that's in your kit. Give it a little clean. And you want to make sure that you can see through it, and we can see through it real good, hopefully. Okay, so everything is clean there. Now we have our 4 screws out of the way. I'll put our cap back on this for right now. I don't know if you can see this real good here. There is an O-ring. There's an O-ring in here. You can see these jets, and from time to time there's a well of ink that will feed those jets. They will get plugged up from time to time. So the reason we're taking this apart is so you can see that their O-ring is in there. And we will take and spray. There we go. We'll give it a little spray, clean it out real good. Remember, be careful you don't lose your O-ring and your little screws there. So now if we can see that all right. Now we have our jets cleaned out and our O-ring is in place. If you do lose the O-ring, there should be another one in the kit. There's a small detent here on the plate. Now that will fit up. There's a small, you can kind of see that, there's a small pin right here. So you can't really hardly mess this up. It's kind of a nice little setup. and I'm going to just take my gloves off for this particular situation. It's hard to handle these little screws, you will find. Okay. There we go. And the plate will fit up in there. You'll feel that alignment pin do its job. So we have one screw, and I will not tighten them all up until I get them all in place. Two screws. I will get our third screw. Okay, so we have 4 screws started. And we'll just alternate and tighten them up. Trying to keep a nice even pressure on that. Try not to over tighten these. It's a fine thread. Okay, and that is the bottom plate, the pins, cleaning it out, putting it back on. All right, we're going to go to our operator station now and put our inkjet into a manual pipe, and that button should be white then. That means we're not in auto height. Now my inkjet process is on by being green. I can take and jog the torch down then. Alright, so we jog it down to the plate manually. And we want to get this to a height of about 3/8 of an inch or 10 millimeters basically. Now you'll notice I basically have a sheet of steel under here, so we will be able to height sense with that. This is a 10 millimeter wrench, and I have all my bars. These bars are for protection for this print head, and this is our height sensor ring. Now if the height sensor ring would touch, we would get if it would touch the steel of the plate, we would get a crash or a collision sensor. So for right now, I'm just using this as a way of setting up my 10 millimeter. So I'm just going to roughly jog that down and touch that. Making sure that we can move this. Okay, we have a little room. You can hear it clip. There's a little room there. Okay, that's very close. We can move it easily in there. Okay, now I'm showing you that this is the height sensing ring, and there is a small clip on there, and we have that set so that can go right up to the clip, and then it's set. So all we have to do is then tighten the screw to hold that. So now our sensor is completely isolated by this virtue of this nylon block, and now we're ready to say we could start height sensing if we wanted to. The next thing you would want to do is position your print head and get that up just a little bit above that 3/8, as close as possible, so that if you ever would have a collision, this part breaking away, that you land on your safety cage here and not on your print head. So that's really the whole purpose of this. Okay, so then there's a small set screw, and we're going to zoom in on that in a minute and show you. That set screw adjusts, and we can take and hold that here, and then we have, you can see we have complete mobility of this print head. And then that's where you set that height. Now you want that height set just like I say, just above this 3/8 wrench. There's also one other thing to be aware of when we set that up, that the line of print dots is vertical, is actually in line with the beam, and there's a way of aligning that later. We will show you that, but I guess for now we're going to zoom in on the fact that this collar is how you adjust for this height, okay? Okay, so I don't know if you can get in there and actually look at that wrench in there and get a you might have to come over here more. Oh, very good. And here we are. You can see the hex key is in the collar, so this is actually how we adjust this. That collar right here, that set screw, that loosens up, and that's how we adjust the height of the inkjet head. Simple as that. You can kind of, I don't know, you won't be able to really see this, will you? The line of, can you go down a little bit yet or no?
Really, there is a lot of flexibility with it.
Okay. All right. Now you can see these printing dots. Like I said, they need to be in line with the beam. They need to be linear, and that's how we'll do our adjustment with these, trying to make sure they're in line with the beam. Once you align the print head, okay, so once you have your print head aligned or eyeballed as straight as you can, we'll make the final adjustment later. And once again, make sure that you have your clearance. The print head is just a little bit above your crash cage.